Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage. Today we're having our monthly tech meet where we're going to be talking about the Silver Shadow series. We're going to talk about the differences between the Silver Shadow 1 and the Silver Shadow 2. I think on the 20,000 series and up, instead of these circuit boards and this gizmo with all these little, this is actually, they went to a different style circuit board. And this is what it looks like now. Much more modern, right? Much more modern. You can get these rebuilt exchange. And as you can see, this has those little changeover relays too. It does the same kind of thing. But this is just plugged into some wires, and right above it are just two little servo motors similar to those out there, and they just go up and down. It's a different system, but it's along the same lines. Yeah.
Question. On my 89 Corniche, that's in Texas, and so it's quite hot. We have had it set on max cold here, and the guy says, whatever you do, never move it. So what you're saying is exercise it, so should you just go from hot to cold, back?
If you want your defrost to work when you need it, yes. Yeah. Use it every once in a while.
Yeah, makes sense.
He said never move it?
Yeah, he said never move it.
Well, it's a little odd. He may just, in Texas, it's hot, right? So you need the AC on max all the time.
Most of the time.
Right. So in other words, he probably wants you to just keep it on max cold so you get the best cooling. But if it gets too cold, then you can move it.
I do, but that's the advice he gave me. I was wondering about that at the time.
Yeah, well,
it's a Texas thing.
Everyone has opinions. and he was just wanting your AC to work the best, I think. But if it gets too cold, that's what it's for. Technically, you should be able to, this is as designed, leave it on auto, put these both in the white, and it should always be like 60 to 65 to 70 degrees inside the car. But in the real world, that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
It feels better if it's all the way to the blue. Makes you think you're cooler.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a psychological thing, right? And plus, just so you know, as you're more into the blue, on the upper especially, it'll keep the air coming out of those bullseye vents in the center. When it's on automatic and you move it over this way, there's a certain point to where this moves to a different position and it closes the bullseyes off and makes it go to the windshield. So it's not in your face. If it's too cold, you don't want it blowing on you, right? But it'll still keep the temperatures
What
right.
about the second rectangular vents in the center of the dash? What are those for?
Those are tied in with the bullseyes. So those are in the same mode. It's out of they call it the fascia.
Yeah.
A lot of later cars, this one has it, yeah.
Yeah, it says fascia.
This fascia, when you want it, let's say you want it to always come out of the bullseyes, but it's still too cold, you can turn this down and press fascia and hold it for a second, and it'll move it down to those bullseyes. The early cars didn't have that, but I think 79 they put it in, maybe 70. This came out of a 79, these parts. Now the fan speeds, this is the fan speed module here. This has got some circuitry and a big diode and all that kind of heat sink, right? Because it's got to reduce the voltage to get low fan speeds, so you got to get rid of that heat. I was saying before, when you're on auto, it'll control all the fan speeds automatically. So if you get in the car and you have it on white and it's hot outside and it's hot in the car and you're on auto, it should go to max AC. And then as it cools the car down, it should gradually, automatically go away from that and just maintain the temperature. But the fans have different speeds even on low and high. This will compensate. It'll reduce it a little bit or raise it a little. There'll still be noticeably more.
Where do they locate this?
It is under the dash with lots of little bolts and nuts and things in the way. They're really a to get out.
Put it like in a
Just that's tech talk, just so you know.
I know, I recognize it.
airflow over it.
Right, there's not like a vent. I mean, if you're, yeah, there's not much air down there, but
A lot of designs put the resistor drops.
right. And like on this year model, I think it's 89. It's right out on the firewall, out in the engine compartment, so it gets air circulation. And then the old cars, they'd use just big coil wound resistors, and they had to locate them either in the air box, so the air's blowing over them, or, you know, out where they get air.
Ronnie, I'm under the impression when you park the car, you need to turn everything off on the air conditioning. Or can you leave it set where it is?
You can leave it set where it is. It won't hurt anything. It won't hurt anything. So this box right here, it has all these settings, and what it does is it's a voltmeter. And when you go into the test mode, you can test all the sensors to make sure they're good. Because as soon as you get one sensor that goes bad or is unplugged by, let's say you get your car painted and they pull the rear bumper off and they disconnect that little funny looking wire thing hanging out, you will have max defrost all the time when you drive the car. So in Texas, that wouldn't be good. So once the sensor is out of the string, then it goes to this default mode of safety. You got to have a clear windshield. That's how they think. So this can test your sensors to see if they're within range. It also tests the position of these arms. So this lower one right here, it controls the flap that controls the air down to the lower part. But it also has a cable going to the hot water valve, which is out in the engine compartment. So the way this has a gear here, it has a little motor. This little motor's that reverse direction. It has a gear, and the gear has these noticeable steps on it. And if you look on this side, if you look inside there, there's these little, we can actually see them here if we pull this apart. I've taken a lot of these apart and fixed them over the years. And this is located right above the tunnel, on the bottom of the dash, this servo. Now, gets more complicated, doesn't it? Look at all those wires. And there's 4 little micro switches on this side. I think this one has 2, and that just controls how far it goes one way or the other. There we go. Now we're getting into it. So up here, down here, you have micro switches. So 2 of them control how far this goes down and how far it goes up. And you have to set that up with this voltmeter. You have to, you know, adjust it so it goes in the right direction. Another one controls some other servos, those little actuators. So when the gear inside here, which you can't see it unfortunately, I don't have one apart, but there's little rollers under these micro switches, and on that big plastic gear it comes by, and then there's a high spot, and it operates a micro switch. That's what it does. So at certain modes, remember how I told you if you're all the way to the left with the blue, it'll always blow out of the bullseyes? That's one of these. I forget, it's a 10 or 15% switch is what they call it. So you can set this, you can check this, and then I have tweaked them before to make customers, you know, satisfied. I will mess with their settings, and you can adjust these, you know, to different positions. Slightly, not a whole lot. But, and then up here, these are 2 potentiometers. And what they do is tell all this electronic stuff what position this is in. So you've got your limit switches, and so it doesn't go too far this way, it doesn't go too far this way, but you also have automatic, you've got all these positions in between. You've got to know where it's at. So these tell the system what position this flap is in, theoretically. Now, you think about, those are called position sensors, and every car that has a memory switch for your seats, mirrors, steering wheel, all that kind of stuff, your car is loaded with position sensors. Every motor on that car that operates something, steering column, mirrors, up, down, this way, that way, they all have position sensors on them. With wires that are so thin, it's amazing. The modern cars, and then they have computers to memorize all that. I wish I knew more about this stuff, because this stuff I can deal with, because there's wires and switches and things I can take apart and measure. I don't know what the hell to do with this, right? I can plug another one in, but these are programmed, right? They're programmed. So I'm lost sometimes. But I keep trying, right? Now there is a great source for a lot of this electronic stuff and modules on the Rolls-Royces and Bentley, and it's John Palmer. He's on the New Jersey area. He bought from Rolls-Royce and Bentley all the proprietary test equipment and all that when they stopped doing it. So he rebuilds a lot of this stuff. And he's really a gentleman, a nice guy. He'll help you if you have a
Yeah,
problem.
I just spoke to him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's a great guy.